Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. Later on, we're going to talk about the disabled and actually getting real employment for them. But first, this is a really difficult topic for me, and we touched on all sorts of difficult topics, but I don't read. I'm dyslexic, and I'm going to talk to one of the most incredible bookstore owners in Colorado, Joyce Meskis from Tattered Cover. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
Even we illiterates appreciate what you do.
Now, you're not illiterate at all, and let's get that on the table right away.
Well, I got the books of, I will not eat it in a box, I will not eat it with a fox. I mean, I got those, but that's kind of where I leveled off. Actually, I wanted to talk to you because growing up in Colorado, there were certain iconic businesses that really were Colorado. I think of Jake Jabs and American Furniture Warehouse. That is a Colorado institution, and it's still there.
He wrote a book too.
He actually wrote 2 books. Coors. You think about Coors. Weird things like Soldier of Fortune magazine. They all come out of Colorado, but Tattered Cover was such an iconic business as a bookstore. I think really the first in the state that put on a whole new model. When did you start or buy? What was the story? When did it start?
It started in 1971. Steve Kogel, who passed away last year, started the store. He was a young man coming out of Boston. His mother lived in Denver, and he came to visit her, and he saw an opportunity. He had it for 3 years and put it up for sale. He had back problems, had been in an auto accident, wanted to go back east, and so he put it up for sale. I borrowed money from everybody I could put the touch on and made an offer.
Now, Tattered Cover is a huge store. The Cherry Creek store that you had for a long time was, it was a warehouse full of books. When you bought it, it wasn't that model. How big was the first store? The
first store was 950 square feet. Cherry Creek, the store you're speaking of, was 40,000 square feet when we moved away from there.
40,000 square feet. Mm-hmm. And how did you get from there to there? I mean, the model of having this wild selection, this space, and I think what was really unique, and tell me if this was the plan, is it was relaxed. You had the coffee shop, you could sit down, there were chairs that you could actually pull up a book and spend some time to get to know, to decide if you wanted it or not.
Precisely.
It wasn't like a newsstand where, hey, if you're going to look at that, you better buy it. What was the model you used? How did you get there?
We wanted the customer to feel absolutely taken care of, comfortable, have the time, if that was in their life at that moment, to have a seat, look at the books, and as you put it, decide what they wanted. After all, there's a range of books that is absolutely outstandingly wonderful that's available in the world today. And absolutely, there are times when you're going to want to sit and peruse all different kinds of ideas contained therein.
Yeah, but in the mid-'70s and when I went to college in the '80s, there was no place that had a selection. There was no Amazon, there was no internet. There were these little stores, and if you wanted something, maybe they could order it for you, even if you knew it existed, but there was no way to know that it existed. To have that much inventory is a huge expense. It is a huge outlay. I mean, that must have been, I would think, the biggest risk you had.
Well, we grew it over time. It was a number of years before we reached that size that you're talking about. We started with 950 square feet, and we didn't get to 40,000 until 20 plus years went by.
The store has something else, though. I mean, all bookstores have book signings, or the author comes and does a reading. Tattered Cover has become more of a performance space in a way, in that this is where Hillary Clinton comes to do her thing, or whoever it is. There's one spot that they need to go to, and that's Tattered Cover. That's got to make you feel pretty good.
Well, that is a tribute to the community, because without the community, we don't exist, and we can't then bring the authors in.
But what did you give that's different than other bookstores? If you could encapsulate it, what was it that's different about Tattered Cover than all those competitors?
Well, I think it's the experience and it's the passion behind the experience in terms of serving the customer. There are good bookstores throughout the land, irrespective of their size. Size is not something that is quantifiable in the sense of the brilliance that it brings to the community, the light it shines on authors. That is something that is unique to each store. Good stores are small, good stores are big.
Oh, you are too polite. Now, the stories of you shoplifting from other stores to build that inventory, how did you do that for that many years?
Well, we didn't do that actually.
Oh,
We
that's too
grew it
bad.
in new ways.
You also have an interesting partnership with Colorado Public Radio. They do some of their Colorado Matters shows from your spot.
They have been doing that indeed, and it's been fun. It's been great to watch that occur.
All right, let's talk a little politics, because you were thrown in the middle of a controversy. We got involved as loud spectators, but this is when a local drug task force said, you know what, there's a guy we're looking at. He bought books from your store. Give us the details. What happened there? Refresh my memory.
Right. It's a bit of a long
That's
story,
all right.
but you've got the beginning facts absolutely on the mark. The authorities had their eye on an individual. We had sent this individual a book. They found within his home a small meth lab, and they saw books about making methamphetamine on the shelf in his home. They were trying to see if we were the store that sold it to him.
Was there any evidence that you were the store that sold it to him?
They saw in the trash they called it a mailing envelope that was empty, but it was in the trash, and we, Tattered Cover, was the sender of that package, and they wanted to find out what was in that package.
What other books might be in it?
That's
Did that
right.
book? Were they trying to get to you as being complicit in the crime of having a meth lab?
No, no, no.
They wanted the evidence on this guy.
Right.
What did they want to learn? I'm trying to understand. They wanted records of what else he bought. Is that basically it?
They wanted records of what was in that mailing envelope, because they were so sure in their minds that there had to be a connection between the meth books and what was in that package. So they would have had a closer connection, having known that he had ordered those specific books and that might have been sold by us. They had 3 or 4 other individuals that they were looking at concurrently who occupied the same trailer home that he occupied, and they were trying to narrow the scope.
You didn't give him these records.
That's right.
Why did you make that decision?
Because privacy is inherent in the First Amendment in terms of book purchases. There is a higher standard when it comes to books and materials that are protected by the First Amendment than there is perhaps in finding something like an ashtray or
The glass burner he used to do it and whatever. Why? Why is there a higher standard? Why protect your customers' privacy to the extent you did? This turned into a massive legal fight.
Yes, it did, and it lasted 2 years.
And that goes a long way. And you had to spend, I would imagine, a fortune on legal fees to protect your customers' privacy.
We spent an enormous amount of time, but we were very fortunate. The book business is not big on profits, shall we say, and we've got a lot of expenses. And we had pro bono work done by attorneys. We had major national book industry communities like the Authors Guild and the American Association of Publishers and the American Booksellers Association support us with amicus briefs. So we had colleague booksellers in California and Lemony Snicket there who helped out on funding it. I had people mailing $5 a piece in envelopes they were sending to us to
How did it end? Remind me. I knew this was a huge victory, not just for you, but for privacy, which was something that we independents were so concerned about. How did it end?
It ended in the Colorado Supreme Court with a 6-0 with one abstention, agreeing with our point of view.
That these are your private records between your business and your customers, and you don't have to give them up.
But you're absolutely right. It was a victory for the reader. It really wasn't in the sense that is normally thought of a victory for the tattered cover. It really is broader than that.
I agree with you, but now let me ask you this question. If this was Barnes & Noble or Amazon, I'm asking you to speculate, would they go to the wall the way you did?
I have no idea. They have certainly...
You're too polite. You are so wonderfully polite. All right, let me talk about the competition. You had this selection long before Barnes & Noble started putting this out as more of a standard, and certainly before Amazon. When they started doing this at a national level, what did that do to your business? How big of a hit? Well, first of all, were you complimented that your model was copied somewhat?
Well, I can't say that's the kind of compliment that one appreciates completely, but at the same time, certainly Amazon made a huge difference in terms of the community of readers and what was available to them competitively, price-wise, and Barnes & Noble and Borders at the time were on a rollout of their superstore phenomenon. And that had its effect too. We are not immune to these things.
But those have retracted. Tattered cover still is there. What's in the future for Tattered cover? Now that you're on Colfax, it's still a huge store. What's next?
Well, actually, in 2 years, there's going to be an ownership transition. The new folks.
You're selling to Amazon?
No, I'm not selling to Amazon.
You could really cash out, you know.
Well, I'm afraid that we've chosen a road that is really good for the community, and we are thrilled with this happening. Len Vlahos and his wife, Kristen Gilligan, have come to join us the beginning of this past July. It'll be a 2-year transition. They're well versed in the book industry. I've known Len for over 20 years. He's worked within the industry all that time. Kristen has for 10 years. Both have worked in retail before that.
All right, so the Tattered cover is staying, and it's going to be in good hands.
It's in very good hands.
All right. Last question. Favorite book?
Oh, not that question.
No, you're running out.
Not that question.
All right, 3 books. You're running out. You get the whole building's on fire. You can only save a couple books. What are they?
Oh, I would fill my arms and run.
Oh, good God. What are you, a politician? Come on, give me the answer.
The book I'm reading is usually a favorite at the moment, but I love the classics. I love Willa Cather. I love Thomas Hardy. I love children's books.
Archie comics, are they anywhere on that list?
Well, probably not Archie, but maybe Veronica.
Veronica, she had something going on. You were in agreement. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Stay tuned.